Hey, what's poppin', sexies? It's your boy here, and we back. We got some more Fire Emblem Heroes content, and it's the end of the world, because the Christmas banner is finally upon us, and with it, we got the most ludicrous releases of units that I think I've seen in a single batch. Every single one of these guys has introduced either a passive, a skill, a special, or just they themselves are ready to tear the meta apart. So, to discuss this, I've got two of the homies on the hook here. So we got Oblivion. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Excited to talk about the crazy power creep that has come.
Yeah, this is basically like getting a second Choose Your Legends banner this year.
You're actually right. That's like a perfect way to put it.
Yeah. And we also have, making his first appearance on the channel, DTM. What's up, man?
What's up? Hello, everyone. DTM here, and, I just had to scout out this podcast because all these other people are getting on it. No, just kidding. But, yeah, super excited for talking about this banner. And, yeah, like you mentioned, we've got a lot of very, very cool units that should be exciting to discuss about.
Yeah, there's quite a lot to talk about here. So why not we start things off with the one and only Edelgard, since
yes, let's go.
Let's get the future Hero Rises winner out of the way, right? So
possibly
you say that, and Fallen Edelgard's going to take her place.
Stop!
You know that's going to happen.
Please no! Oh my god.
I actually don't understand how Fallen Edelgard could possibly make it in over this one, right? The only acceptable Edelgard that could have won was the summer one last time, and she didn't even make it. So I don't know.
Yeah, still bitter.
It's just
three Edelgards in the top 8. It'll be Fallen, Summer, and Winter Edelgard in the top
8. No, just make the whole final banner an Edelgard banner. Just 4 Edelgards for Hero Rises.
Oh man. Oh gosh, please.
All right, so how about we start things off with a little pop quiz. Now, can either of you two, just off top of your head, name every effect that her weapon does?
Oh gosh. Oh, just her weapon?
Just the weapon. I want to do a little test here. So, all right,
okay.
Oblivion, why don't you go first?
Okay. I know. I probably don't know everything. Slaying.
Yep.
There's stats. I don't know how is it up to 15? I think stats, minus attack and defense. I think.
Yes. Yep.
There's DR penetration based off being solo, or how many units are around you, you get more,
right?
Or you get less, or something like that. You know what I mean? The more you solo you are. Right?
Yeah.
And then there's this. Is that in the weapon or is that in the special or in the preference? I think it's in the weapon. You get special jump based off how much you moved, and then lastly you get anti-miracle if you have color advantage or fire. I think that's it, but I don't know. Maybe some of that's in the preference skill. There's so much stuff, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think he got it right, DTM, or you want to add anything?
I think he got it mostly. I believe she also has the blazing flame effect in the weapon.
Oh, duh.
Yep.
Yeah, duh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oblivion, how could you forget? Oblivion, you forgot the most important thing.
There's too much stuff, man. It's like 20 effects.
Yeah, so she also sets up the flame tiles in 2 rows, not just one, because one wasn't enough for some reason.
Right.
So, yeah, but you got pretty much everything right there. So, everybody give a round of applause for Oblivion on that one. He actually got it all right, almost. So, I'll read the full thing right here just to get everything accurate. So, -1 special trigger. At the start of combat, if her HP is over 25%, she applies Divine Vein Flame on 5 spaces in a line centered on the foe's space and 5 spaces behind those spaces, based on the direction she's facing for 1 turn after combat. Then at the start of combat, if her HP is over 25%, she inflicts attack and defense -X on the foe, where X is 15 minus the number of adjacent allies times 2, with a minimum of 6. And she also gets special cooldown count -Y to unit before her first attack. Y is the number of spaces from starting to ending position of whoever moved, times 3, or a max of 3 rather. And then if the foe is on a space where Divine Vein Flame is already applied, then you instantly get the full 3. and also reduces the percentage of foes' non-special DR effects by 100 minus the number of allies adjacent to unit times 30 during combat. And also, Jesus Christ, like, you think they have enough in here? If unit has weapon triangle advantage or the foe is on Divine Vein Flame tile, then she neutralizes non-special miracle effects as well during combat. So quite a mouthful there. Now, this unit is basically just Summer Edelgard on crack for the most part. It's like they took Summer Edelgard and they were like, oh, she's pretty solid. Why not just give her double rows of flame tiles? Let's let her nullify DR. Let's let her pre-charge special on attack. Like, what the hell, man? Like, what is going on with this? Also, let's negate Miracle too, just because, for good measure.
Right. Why not?
So, all right, DTM. Me and Oblivion have been like doing most of the talking. What do you think about this?
I mean, I do think with all those effects, I believe Winter Edelgard is probably the best melee Gale Force initiator right now. Like previously, Summer Edelgard had that, right? With the Brave. Winter Edelgard obviously doesn't have Brave, but Summer Edelgard did occupy that spot. And now it's Winter Edelgard. It's always the Edelgards that are the Gale Force queens, which personally I really, really love.
Yeah,
I will say I don't think.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's pretty thematic too, because like in Three Houses, that's how she worked there.
Right.
Exactly, and I really like how they kept that theme in there. When it comes to like Gale Force initiators overall, I personally still prefer Brave Golvek just because of range and flyer. But like when it comes to melee options, I do think Winter Edelgard is the go-to right now, just due to her being able to like again nullifying DR, which is really important when it comes to melee initiation. Like so many melee tanks have DR, and so being able to get through that is really, really good.
Right, and she's also a Lance unit, by the way, so she has a little bit of like different matchups than the Summer one, because like Summer Edelgard,
our first blue Edelgard.
Yeah.
Like, what are the odds?
Yeah, so I mean, she's cracked beyond belief. I used her for a couple of fights in Aether Raids, and she just dominated everything. It was not even a challenge. Like, you just waltz right up. She could easily get enough HP to walk right onto a Hex tile. And you give her that, and then she just waltzes right in and just teabags all over the enemy for the most part. There's no way that they can chase after her with double stacked flame tiles, and you take your two actions, you set up the flame tiles, and then you get out of the way. I think the flame tiles on her is like one of the most obnoxious things that they could have given her, because like that's one of the things that most of the melee like super good Gale Forcers can't really do. So like in the case of Summer Edelgard, she could not have flame tiles no matter what. But like here, we're just getting it for free. So yeah, on a unit that couldn't inherit Flame Sparrow, by the way, or like Flared Sparrow, Mirrored Sparrow, or whatever that one's called. Yeah, so I don't know, man. This unit is next level. Anything you want to add, Oblivion?
there is the. Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
go ahead, DTM.
All right. I mean, there is the argument to be made that like the one thing that she can't really do is AoE Gale Force, which has been on the rise. Specifically, things like AoE Brave Golvek and also AoE OG Edelgard, which I think personally is super underrated. Not only does the AoE obviously help with damage output, it helps like the other follow-up units be able to deal with the enemy team a lot better. The flames do really help with that, obviously. Yeah. But it's just something I think to consider when evaluating Summer Edelgard as a Gale Force unit. Like, not Summer. I keep saying Summer. Winter Edelgard as a Gale Force unit.
Yeah, I mean, this unit's stupid. Like, I've been playing with her in Aether Raids. Pretty much, like, right when she came out, I swapped out Summer Edelgard for her, and I'm gonna use Summer in, like, Light, and I'll use this one in, like, Astra. But the point is, like, even running an unoptimal build, like, she kills pretty much everything. Like, sometimes she'll struggle a little bit, but you have to, like, think about it, right? Like, what build am I using? I'm using a double Fury build. Fury 4 is great for, like, damaging yourself so you can get in the Wings of Mercy. When you think about it as an actual skill, it's pretty crap, right? Like, it's +4 attack and speed pretty much. Like, it's not good, especially when you compare it to, like, Flared Sparrow and all the other crack stuff we have.
Yeah.
And then when you combine that with a Fury 3 seal, right, which is also crap, right? You can have Bold Fighter instead, which is insanely more powerful. You're, like, severely gimping your damage output, and she's still killing everything, right? Like, she's one-shotting Freyr, and I'm like, okay, like, like, this unit's stupid.
This is one of the issues I think Summer Edelgard had, is that at this point, I feel like her stopping power has taken a bit of a dive. Like, there are some times where she can fail to get the KO in one round of combat.
Right.
So, like, this Edelgard just being able to one-shot pretty much most of the things she has to fight is just insane.
Yeah, I felt that. Even, like, when she released, there were times when I felt Summer Edelgard, like, failing to kill knots of all units, which was really wild.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, like, with the extra damage output, with the DR negation that Winter Edelgard has, like, again, like, I think we can all agree, like, Winter Edelgard's probably the best melee Gale Force initiator we have currently, just by herself, not considering other context.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, she's really, really bulky. So, like, I've ran into units I can't kill, but they don't kill her either. And I'm like, well, I can just smack them, like, twice. Like, who cares, right? Like, I smack them, they get low on health, and then all the fire tiles go down, and I just sweep after that. Like, I lose an action, but it's not even a big deal because she gets 3. So it's like, this unit's just so dumb.
Yes.
And like you were saying earlier, like, the hit and run. So, like, you can adapt, too, which is really cool. Because, like, if you've played Gale Force a lot in Ether Raids, things will just go wrong, right? Sometimes you don't consider something. Sometimes you forget something. There's a million things to keep track of.
Yeah.
And so being able to improvise is a big deal. And this unit's really good at improvising because you can go in, kill 2 things, realize, oh, this Gale Force isn't going to work, and then just get out. And then you're like, I'm good.
Yeah. Or you could also take it the other approach, too. You could just go in turn 1, Gale Force 2 guys, use your last action to get out of the way. Next turn, after your fence has done its thing, you go back in, you pop another, like, 3 guys, and then she could actually enemy phase the rest, because her enemy phase is pretty solid once you've gotten rid of, like, all the big offensive threats.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I've been talking to people, and one of the things that has been considered for her C slot, because obviously she has Assault Troop and extra movement in her B, so she doesn't need to run Assault Troop on her C. So what you can do is run something like Farsafe, for instance, and if you're running Double Fury, you can just leave, like, say, ranged dancers alive, and then Summer Edelgard can just safely tank the ranged dancers for you, and be able to, leave that alive for you to gather the pots.
Right.
Like, that is an option, especially if it turns out, oh, whoops, I can't actually trap this unit. Uh-oh. You have to improvise, and that's really good for there.
Yeah. We've already just brought it up with DTM's comments there, so we might as well dive right in and talk about her B skill now. So she has a preference B skill called Raging Tempest, and what this one does is at the start of turn, if her HP is full, or any enemies are in 3 columns or 3 rows centered on her, then she gets +1 movement and charge for 1 turn, as if charge wasn't already good enough. It's like, let's give her bonus movement too, just to give Gatekeeper the middle finger. Like, all your
Good.
all your units that have Warp Bubble, just like Warp Bubble was one of the real good counters to Summer Edelgard on, like, Cav-line teams. I have a Cav-line team set up for my defense right now, and of course I've got Gatekeeper there, so I can, like, prevent Summer Edelgard from doing her thing and just, like, completely wrecking me. That's not going to work against this Edelgard. So, I'm kind of scratching my head. Like, what am I actually supposed to do to counter this one? Also,
it's rough. It's
rough. Yeah. Also, if the number of allies adjacent to her is less than or equal to 1, then she inflicts attack and defense -5 on the foe in combat. She gets 15% bonus damage based on her attack, except on AoE specials. And then if she initiates combat, she gets another action after combat. And as far as new fodder introduced by this Edelgard, we've got 2 skills. So a special, Armored Blaze, it's basically just the physical variant of Armored Beacon, where you're getting 40% bonus damage based on your defense when you trigger this special. And then if the enemy has a 1-range weapon and your special triggered or is ready before or during this combat, then you get 40% non-pierceable DR. So, pretty powerful special there.
Yep.
And as far as passives are concerned, she's got Attack and Defense Prime 4, which is pretty much the same thing as Attack and Speed Prime 4, same conditions, but instead of doing Attack and Speed, this one does Attack and Defense.
Yep.
So she's a clinic of good fodder. She also reintroduces Def Res Ploy 3, another really good skill. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
you look at this unit from top to bottom, it's like there is nothing I can complain about. There's no weaknesses anywhere, nothing glaringly a flaw, like amazing fodder, amazing unit.
Yep.
On the fodder front, I will say, if you're going to inherit like the full stack for an armor, I think having like a save on Edelgard would have been a lot more efficient. Because I don't think a lot of armors would want Def Res Ploy.
Right.
They'd probably want to go save. But yeah, like Attack Defense Prime 4, obviously super, super good. We all know how good Attack Speed Prime 4 is. And Armor Blaze is interesting. It's definitely very good for like near save type units. Near saves aren't exactly as important as far saves, but you know, it's a good option for near saves to have, which I guess is really nice. IS is finally completing the skill families, which is nice.
Yeah, that maybe in 50 years we'll get a different double boost skill than Fire Flood boost.
Maybe.
But speaking of like, have you guys tried this unit out in SD, or is like, have you been like mostly sticking to Aether Raids?
So far it's been
I've been
Aether
mainly
Raids.
AR.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so when I saw this unit, I was talking to Joel and DTM, and I was like, hey, I think this unit's actually a good save in SD, because like she's not really built to save, right? Like she doesn't really have a lot of the fundamental things you want in a save in SD, but she has range. Like she can be very aggressive. And I was kind of mad because this SD week, do you see the map? It's 4 blocks in the center that have double hits on them.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to like take advantage of it there. But we found a way, and I've been playing her in SD, and she is completely and utterly disgustingly broken. Like, oh my god, this unit is so stupid. And the reason for that is, it's like special jump, right? Like the effect where you can like get the special cooldown before your first attack was introduced by Ike, but it had a requirement of having to have an offensive special. But with Edelgard, that's not there. So that means you can use things like Miracle.
I didn't even think about that. Oh my god.
So what you do is you set up, right? And then you have Edelgard get to the top row, and she has enough room because of charge, or she can even walk, because I've ran into Gatekeeper. She just walks in there, it's fine.
Yeah.
And she can just smack, kill something, have her Miracle charged. The enemy team struggles to kill her. She has Prime up, so she counterattacks and kills them typically. She survives because of Miracle. And then she also puts down all the flame tiles. And this is where Pulse Smoke is good. Pulse Smoke I'm still on the fence about, because Defense Res Ploy is actually really nice, because if you run into like Robin, it just gets turned off.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Pulse Smoke's also really good because a lot of people are using Miracle themselves. And so what you do is you go in and you initiate. You kill something or you just cripple it, and then you turn off everybody's specials. And then they just can't do anything to her.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
she just sits there and like, you're like, okay, what do I do against this? So like I think this is a bad map for her too. Like this is probably like one of the worst maps possible for her. So I think in the future she's gonna be way more toxic in SD. So I'm a bit horrified, but it's also been really fun.
Right. So
I think we'll need to update Nia's tier list in that case, because I don't think they have Summer or Winter Edelgard on there at all.
Yeah.
They haven't seen the light yet.
Yeah. So basically my final thoughts on this unit is that she's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
I do appreciate them giving more armored units that don't necessarily have to be just relegated as a token save unit. I like when they mix it up and give us like armored units that can actually player phase if they need to. So Ninja's Elgius was the example prior to this. I love that unit so much. And I think this Edelgard is a nice alternative touch to how you can build a really good armored unit.
Right, and like I know like Edelgard sort of has the niche of player face armors like cornered, but I just love the design and like inherent thematic contradictions, I guess, of that sort of thing. Like just playing out, it's super, super fun. And I haven't yet tested her out yet in SD. I really want to try that thing that Oblivion said. I do have my doubts still, but yeah, I'm just excited to have a lot of fun with her. And I think that's an important thing. She, as a unit, is very, very fun.
Right, yeah.
Like triple
Exactly.
actions, player phase is super, super fun. It's super satisfying. And that, as a unit design, I think is really, really good. And so, yeah, I know I'm biased, but I'm personally really satisfied with Winter Edelgard.
She's also super versatile, which I think is like one of the biggest things. Is like
Yeah.
a lot of times you get units that are just like really pigeonholed into like one role. But
Yeah.
she's flexible where she can do a lot of different things. Even if she doesn't do it at the best, just being able to do a lot of things is really good. And then being the best guild forcer, so like
Yeah.
like the best, and then also very good at something else. Like overall, this is like a top 10 unit in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
already.
There's no question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that should cover us pretty much for Edelgard. So why don't we go ahead and move on to Yunaka up next? So Yunaka, Best Bae, who has taken over Twitter currently.
Yes. Refuses to show up because she's working.
Yeah,
I know her.
Yeah, so, all right, why don't we take the quiz once again? Pop quiz here. Can either of you two name off all of the effects on her weapon?
I don't think
Okay,
so.
since I don't think so, but since Oblivion did last time, I'll try this
All right.
time.
All right.
So I believe she has slaying. She has an effect where, based on something, I forgot which, she like negates the DR of the enemy while at the same time giving herself DR that same amount. I believe she has a special jump, and yeah, that's all I remember, honestly.
Okay. Oblivion, you think you could do any better?
I know she has Canto Distance.
Right.
So
yes. I
Canto Distance
forgot about
max
that.
3. The DR is based off movement or terrain. So if she moves 3 spaces, she gets 90% DR or 90 DR shred.
Right.
And then if there's terrain, I think it's impassable terrain, or is it? No, I think it's man-made terrain.
It-
like
Yeah,
like the
it's
divine
passable terrain. Yeah,
Right.
I remember that.
And
yeah.
then other than that, and she has anti-guard too. I know that, but I don't
Yeah.
think she has special jump. I think she just had anti-guard.
Right.
I
so-
think does she have offensive NFU too? Yes, I
Yes,
think so.
yeah, she has offensive NFU. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, she
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
Okay, so combined, your answers are pretty close.
Okay.
You missed
All right.
missed a couple of things though.
We're-
You guys missed Dagger 7, of course, and then
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And stats. Yeah.
yeah, the all stats of 5. So I'm gonna read off the
Right,
whole
right.
thing here. So she enables Canto Distant with a max of 3. She has -1 special trigger. At the start of combat, if her HP is over 25%, she gets all stats of 5 and a bonus to attack and speed, where the calculation is 9 minus the number of allies adjacent to her times 2 with a min of 0. Neutralizes effects that prevent her follow-up attacks. Also neutralizes effects that inflict guard on her. And also, if she initiates combat, she gets damage reduction and damage reduction cut based on X times 30, where X is the number of spaces from starting to ending position of whoever initiated, times 3. And if any space in 2 spaces of her has a Divine Vein effect or counts as difficult terrain, excluding impassable terrain, then she automatically gets the full. And then first attack normally means for the first strikes, but she gets the DR on brave attacks too. And then she has Dagger 7. So, quite a mouthful once again. I mean, I remember...
Short story for everyone.
Yeah, when I was watching the trailer, this is actually the first time this ever happened to me, where I was watching a trailer, and by the second unit in, I actually had a headache. Like, there was just so many effects to keep track of. Like, normally, I don't usually, like, talk when I'm doing my trailer breakdown. Like, when I read the effects, I'm, like, in my head, just, like, off the cuff, I'm thinking of, like, where this can apply to, like, what kind of teammates I may want to run with this, and, like, what sort of advantages and disadvantages this weapon may have. By the second unit in, I was, like, already, my brain was mush for the most part. It's just, like, too much. It's too much to take in all at once.
A lot.
And I guess that's why they have those pop-ups now.
Yeah.
Even though like that completely distracted me.
Yeah, the blurbs. The blurb.
Those threw me off so much. Oh my goodness. Like I was constantly distracted by them. I don't know.
But if you read them, you don't even know what the unit does. It's like they're so bad. The blurbs. They don't tell you anything.
Like Dimitri's was like,
Right.
he ambushes foes. I'm like, what is okay.
Yeah. No, it's like Monster Hunter descriptions.
Yeah.
It's like it tells you something and it does something else, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I've used Yunaka quite a bit in AR so far. I have her on my defense team in particular. As you guys know, I am currently a big proponent of cav lines, or a big supporter of cav lines at the moment. So I've got my new cav line set up, and I plopped Yunaka on there, and I so far have not taken any losses. Everyone's been getting annihilated, which
Nice.
I mean, I wouldn't have expected otherwise. A lot of people are just trying to bait. They have like Veil, and they have like a bunch of supporters. I saw some guy try to bait with. They had a bait unit. I can't remember which armored unit it was. They had. It might have been Brave Corrin. They had her at like +10. They had Veil on the team next to her for the support, and then they rallied on her with Astrid, and she got chopped up. Like my defense just ran right through her, because I have Flared Sparrow or Flared Mirror on like everybody. So I have Ninja Sanaki, I've got Yunaka, I have the Mythic Gulveg. So that's 3 units already that have Flared Sparrow. So like the more and more you try to tank it, it just gets worse and worse. Like you're just taking too much. The 7 points of true damage on Flared Sparrow at this point, and now we're comboing that. We have Assassin Strike and Occult Strike now too. So. When you're stacking like that level of true damage, it just gets to a point where it's way over the top. And the tanks are just getting melted now. There's like no actual way to tank, really. If you're trying to like Omni tank and like bait out the entire enemy team, I'm not really sure you can do that anymore.
There's a one way, but we'll talk about it later.
Yes. There's like, I think when you're tanking in AR, like you can't simply tank like the entire team. Like that is just not going to be a possible strategy.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is to just like, if you remember like back in the old Cavline days, like you'd like target specific like rows or something or columns or something. And I think you'd have to do something like that here, where you just like avoid as much as you can and only focus on the few that you feel confident that you're able to. And there are people that yes, exactly. And there are people that do make it work, especially for cav lines that are not as invested or as optimal. But yeah, it's going to require some thought, basically.
Yeah, but what is the common theme, though, with players that like to run bait strategies? They usually just eat glue. They put their unit in the front lines and have them... They're like, oh, I've got this unit at +10. I've got all my support. I'll put them in front row, and they're going to tank everything. And then they just get shredded. So, like, I mean...
It does happen.
Here's the thing. I'll say this. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but the reason why I like cav lines and, well, prior to that, flyer lines is because they push the opponent to the bottom of the map. So it's applying so much pressure right from the start that it makes it really hard to player phase them. It's not impossible to, but it's a lot more difficult to than, like, say, a Catria ball where you've got a lot of leeway. They're not going to overlap ranges to the point where they can zone you out all the way to the bottom. So the reason why I like doing that is because I feel like more of the better players are tending to use like offensive player phase strategies, whereas the less experienced players or like less skilled players are using bait strategies. So if I have a team where the optimal way to beat it is by baiting, I have less of a chance of losing if like I'm playing against the people that are running bait strategies with less optimal strategies, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like very good players will have like both options. But yeah,
not many.
I mean, yeah, not many.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Yunaka herself is dangerous though. Like that unit is.
Yeah.
You don't want to tank her if possible. You definitely want to hit her in the face. Like, don't let her get near you.
Yeah. No. So
right.
I think I told this before to Oblivion and Joel, but I was like, this unit is basically just Kvaser, but better. And we literally just got Kvaser. She's blessable Kvaser, essentially, which cuts DR. Like, Kvaser doesn't cut DR. This unit does.
Yeah.
Right.
But in that same regard, though, I think Kvaser still has a bit of a niche because she has enemy phase DR, too. So, like, she's...
Right, exactly.
Right.
That's very helpful in her favor. Yeah.
Right. And she also has like this preference special, right? That can act as like a warp beacon or like have the Marianne dance as well. So she does have utility beyond just like pure combat. Whereas Yunaka is just pure combat plus
a killer.
Kanto.
Right.
She's just a killer.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So from fodder skills, this unit is also stacked from top to bottom.
Oh my God.
We've got Flared Sparrow, we have Assassin Strike, and we have Fatal Smoke 4. Literally just like she's built out of the box. You get a copy of this unit, you're good.
Yep.
Like you don't need to do
exactly.
anything. And it's also pretty easy fodder to get too, because Swift Sparrow 2 is very readily available.
Yep.
Poison Strike 3 as well. Fatal Smoke isn't as common, but
Yeah.
let me just quickly take a look. Let's
There
see.
are some copies in the codes, I believe.
There's one copy in the codes, and then other than that, it's like Duo Lift, Legendary Sigurd, and like
Right.
Freya, I think.
I mean-
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Summer Freya.
I'm not the biggest fan of
Yeah,
Fatal
yeah.
Smoke, to be perfectly honest. So you can probably like make do without that if you really like are pushing
Yeah,
it.
I don't really
Yeah.
plan to pick it up. 'Cause it's
You
kinda
could
pain
maybe
in the butt
give
to
her, like maybe you give her insight attack speed instead.
get. yeah.
But like, I
Even
feel
more
like
stats.
the Fatal Smoke though is actually like kind of clutch in some situations.
Yeah, I like it.
So I don't think
Yeah.
it's necessary to take it off her.
No, I think it's fine as it is. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
it can stop some tanks who are just like find a way to live somehow, and it also
Right.
can like get past those miracle shenanigans. So I don't mind having it on defense at least.
Right.
For offense, I probably wouldn't run it, but like,
Yeah.
maybe actually
Right.
because Maria. But I don't know. I mean, for me, mostly I've only used her on like I've been testing her on defense a little bit. I haven't got a chance to use her on offense because I don't have disarm trap for her, and I think she really needs that to like fully get the full
Yes.
use of her.
Right.
I don't know if you have you guys got a chance to try her out on offense at all, or like.
No, I like for me when I'm running these offensive range calves, I like them to be able to take a second action. So for like
Right.
for me, like my choice for player phasing with calves and AR, I would go for like Ninja Sanaki, Ninja Korin, stuff like that,
Right.
or
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
makes sense.
or like
Brave
Gulveg.
Gulveg.
Yeah, Brave Gulveg.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah,
been
I feel
spoiled
like
now.
I know. I feel like Yunaka's not really meant for Gale Force. She's probably more for like hit and run type strategies. Although I have seen some videos of people trying to incorporate her into Gale Force. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but it is an option for like tank busting far saves, I guess. But yeah, I do think her main role is on Aether Raid's defense. Like she's basically made for calf lines. She's like Ninja Sanaki in that sense, where just provides like a lot of power and the ability to cut through DR whilst being able to survive herself, that to allow for like follow-up and that sort of shenanigans.
Right. Yeah, so at this point, I mean, if your defensive units are not piercing DR, you're out of luck. Because like all of the offensive threats now just get a ludicrous amount of initiate DR.
Right.
I
Like
don't know what they're thinking. Like sometimes I'm like 75% was like, okay, that's ridiculous. They're
Yeah.
like, nah, we need 90 now. I'm like,
Yeah.
why do we need 90?
Yeah, no,
I mean,
guys.
I would say it's because tanks have gotten way too powerful and we need more powerful
Oh
nukes.
my, stop.
So like
Stop.
I don't
mean,
agree
it's true.
with that. Nah, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
The offensive meta right now is just like too
It's
much.
just crazy.
It's too much.
It's just cracked.
Yeah.
It's cracked so hard. There's like a very
All
few
I'll
tanks who can
say-
survive stuff. And
all
they need
I'll
help.
say is Joel made Shirena survive Windclot. That's all I'll say.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Because of Veil. It's because of Veil.
Yeah. Okay, so is
yeah, I mean,
there?
she's a good unit though. Like overall, I think Yunaka's really
yeah.
solid. Like
Yeah.
if you're a Yunaka fan, she definitely has a ton of power. And if you don't think 90% DR is enough, you can give her like the Echo skill. Give her.
Have you tried her in SD yet? Like,
Oh yeah, she's good in SD.
Yeah, I mean, I can
She
imagine.
kills stuff.
Yeah, she's basically just Thief Nina and Thief Kagero, right? Or Wind Kagero.
Yeah, she's pretty similar to them. Yeah, she like pretty much plays the same
Right.
role where you're like just trying to like play her in like some kind of like Pathfinder team or something, and she just goes in and kills something and like
Right.
gets out.
The only
She
disadvantage,
works. She works.
she has one less movement than them though.
yeah.
What?
And I think she works when the map allows her to, which is
Yeah.
is like an issue like a lot of Cavs face these days. But
Right.
Yeah.
when it works, it'll work. Or if you could just have like Katie and Lind, I guess.
Yeah, all of the SD maps are basically, are you a flyer? You're good. And sometimes if you're a cav, you're good. So,
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah. All right, so why don't we move on that cavalry note? Why don't we go ahead and move on to Dimitri up next? Now, Dimitri is the one of the 3 units that I actually do not have, so I'm going to be referring to you guys for your analysis on him. So, why don't we start with his weapon? Once again, here's a pop quiz. Can either of you name all the effects on his weapon?
Yeah, I think I can. It's slaying.
Yeah.
At start of turn, if his HP's like 25%, he gets a visible attack and speed +6. He gets NFU.
Yeah.
He gets stats. He gets more stats. He gets 7 HP healing after combat.
Yeah.
I think that's it from the weapon. Yeah, I think that's it from the weapon.
DTM.
Special jump? No, special. Is a special jump in the weapon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, special jump. Okay, special jump in the weapon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the most
So, like-
the most important part, right?
Right. Yeah. There's a trend here.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You got it. So he has Canto 2. He's got -1 special trigger. At the start of turn, if his health is over 25%, he gets a blue bonus to attack and speed up 6. Null follow up the status for 1 turn. And then if his HP is over 25% at the start of combat, then he gets all stats up X, where X is 5 plus 15% of his speed at the start of combat. So pretty insane amount of stats there. Then also he has the special cooldown reduction before his first attack, where special cooldown count is -Y, and Y is the number of spaces from starting to ending position of whoever initiated times 3, or a max of 3. I don't know why I keep saying times 3. It's a max of 3. And then if the number of bonus effects active on him is over or equal to 4, then he automatically gets the full 3. And he has 7 HP recovery after combat.
Right.
So this weapon, I remember reading this on the trailer and thinking, wait a second. Edelgard and Yunaka are doing like 50 more things than this guy. So like, what's going on here? Why is his weapon so bare bones? And I hate to say bare bones when... Like 2 months ago, this weapon would have been insane to just look at, right? But I don't know. That's just how fast power creep goes. So, like...
I mean, I think the thing about it is that, like, he's like a melee axe, right? And there's not a lot of places that melee axe calves are, like, usable. So, in that sense, like, I was with you. Like, I was like, I don't feel the greatest about this. Although... Oblivion, I believe, actually has Dimitri and has been putting in a lot of testing for Dimitri, I believe, right?
Wait, so DTM, you don't have Dimitri?
I don't have Dimitri, no.
Okay. So,
I
Oblivion,
did not get anything on that banner
Wait,
besides
really?
the sparks. Thank you.
Oh, that
I got
sucks.
Edelgard and Yunaka, yeah.
Oh, man, I'm
And
sorry
both
about
of them
that.
were from Spark.
I'm
That's all
sorry.
right. It's all right.
All right, so Oblivion, I guess you've got the floor. You have the unit. You've been testing him, so tell us what you think.
Okay, so like DTM was saying, I was pretty not underwhelmed, right? Because that's not the right way to put it, but like compared to everything else on this banner, I was like, okay, like Dimitri was the one that got robbed, right? Like that's how it kind of felt. Like, people were mad at me for saying that, but like when you just look at their kits, right? Like it's like holy crap compared to like what Dimitri had.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of like Ninja Zelgius, where like it's not as much, but it works very well together. Like it's very powerful effects, but just not like 20 paragraphs.
Yeah, it's
so,
short and to the point, pretty much.
Yes. And so I started using him, and I started using him in Ether Raids first. I wanted to see if he could like tank essentially, right? And I'm like, okay, he's a cav. This is gonna be bad. No, this guy's broken as like hell. Like he is so broken. Oh my god. Like there's almost no map I can't beat with him. He can beat everything. I made him fight 6 Byleths and like just sat him there, and he killed all of them. I had him. He can tank Duo Sonic. Like that should just tell you how strong he is right there. Like it's crazy how good this unit is actually, and it's the weirdest thing is because it's the combination of him having like he has a combination of like good DR because he has that Brave DR, but he also has Vantage, and so what that does essentially is like he doesn't have to tank the entire team. Like that's one of the things like tanks really struggle with, like DTM was mentioning earlier, is like you kind of want to divide the units so you're not getting like volume off by everybody.
Yeah. And
with him, he hits so hard that like if someone comes into him and they don't have like a sweep effect or hardy bearing, he just one-shots them typically. And if they do get through and they like survive that first hit, he has really good DR. So a lot of times he just survives anyway, and he has healing, so he'll heal back up too. And so the thing is like you can like really just destroy things. But the number one thing you have to know about Dimitri, there's two things. There's two things you have to do with Dimitri to make him work. First of all, you have to have him at 66 HP and ether rates, which isn't too hard. You need to give him like summoner support and like a 5 HP seal, so like the 3 attack, 3 speed, 5 HP seal, or and triple mythic buff, right? You can get him 66 HP pretty easily. The reason for that is because it lets him get past Hex Trap, and you really need to attack things. That's the other thing. He needs to hit and sit. He needs to go in, hit everybody, and then just chill. And the reason for that is because it activates all of his buffs, and so that way he has Prime active, which is really nice because something I've noticed with a lot of other units with Prime is that they need a lot of help, right? Like Lucia, like you need help from other units to get the Prime effect. Claude, you have to be like within 2 spaces of an ally to get like the Oath going or like, whatever.
Yeah.
Dimitri doesn't need that. Dimitri starts off with NFU pretty much no matter what, right? You just have 25% HP. He doesn't have to be near any allies or anything. And then you attack, and when you attack, you get dodge, vantage, and then foe penalty doubler from Panic Smoke. I thought Panic Smoke 4 was going to be bad. It's amazing on him. It gives him like a 12 stat swing. Technically a 48 stat swing, right? It's 12 for each stat. And so it makes him way more bulky than he seems to be. It activates Prime, and then it also gives him a ton of stackable DR. Some not pierceable through brave attacks, and then some just like basic DR, right? And so what it lets him do is just go in, he kills almost anything. Like he just hits so hard. He just kills almost anything, and then he just sits there, and everything that doesn't have that, he just vantage kills, and then anything that can actually hit him, he usually tanks and kills. Now, the one thing I was afraid of, and the one thing that was killing me was Duo Sonic. But then I realized, like, how does Sonic really get her damage, right? It's based off penalties. And what makes it so good, though, is that it's not just based off your penalties, it's based off allies' penalties within 2 spaces. But Dimitri is like Fallen Ike, where he can just go in by himself. He doesn't need friends around him. He can just go hard. And so you don't have to have any allies within 3 spaces, and then you just give him like either Peony, you have like a Peony Dance or like a Garrick support, which is global, and she doesn't do that much damage to him because he has the DR. And she doesn't get true damage, so she doesn't pierce his DR. So like he just actually takes her. It's kind of crazy. And so I've been clearing every single Ether Race map with him, like easy mode. Easy mode. He just kills everything. He's so much better than I thought he was.
Yeah, so a lot of that is coming from his B skill, which I think we should go ahead and talk about now. So Barbarity, his unique B skill. At the start of combat, I know. I mean, it describes what it does, right? So at the start of combat, if the enemy's HP is over 25%, then he does attack speed and defense -4 on that foe. He also does 25% bonus damage based on his attack, except on AoE specials. And he's got 40% DR on the enemy's first attack, and this also includes their Brave hit as well. And then after combat, he also gives himself the Vantage status effect and the Dodge status effect, and he does Omni Smoke. So he inflicts all stats -6 on the target and foes in 3 spaces of the target. So he's essentially, you just throw him in, you have him hit somebody, and then he's going to debuff like crazy the entire enemy team. Then he's setting himself up real nicely for Prime 4. He's getting all of these status effects. He's got the Panic Smoke 4 to do further debuffs and give him another status effect. And you could just sit his ass right there and have him Vantage sweep pretty much all the enemies. So, like, Vantage is back in full here. So this is the first Vantage unit I think we've seen in a while where it's like, this is legitimate. Because even without the Vantage, he's still able to survive a hit. So, like, a lot of the Vantage units, if you were able to get through their Vantage somehow, like maybe with Fire Sweep or like Hardy Bearing or whatever it may be, most of them would just go down right there. Not this guy. And because he's getting the Vantage status instead of Vantage the passive where he needs to be on an HP threshold, this guy's HP is full and he still has Vantage. So he's getting the DR and then he's got healing on top of that. It's like, yo, what the hell? Where is his weakness?
Right. I mean, the weakness is he needs to go in and attack someone to get everything going. Like, that is extremely, extremely key. Obviously, there are maps where this is easier to do than others. I do wonder if with like Disarm Trap 4 and units easily being able to reach 66 HP, we might go back to like having Gravity Trap and Bolt Traps instead of Gravity Traps and Hex Traps.
Oh, well, I've already seen that because like the Hex Trap is getting a little unreliable now with The new
Right.
squad A seals they've been doing with the HP 5 and double stat up 3, that's really good for
Yeah.
AR.
Those are
so,
really good.
So
Yeah.
I've actually seen most people swap out of the Hex Trap back to the Bolt Trap.
Yep.
Right. And like obviously if like the defense layout makes it harder to do that, then Dimitri will struggle there. But if you can get that one combat in, then he's set up for life basically.
Right, and
Yeah.
you could also just have Yuri foul play him in with Disarm Trap
Exactly.
and just attack.
Exactly.
So like even traps aren't going to save you.
That's the key thing for me. Like when I was testing the teams out, like you need to have 66 HP and you have to have a way to double smite. Like those are the two things you need. So like either two smiters or like a smiter and a dance or whatever.
Yeah.
But you need double smite so that you can get it. Because like no matter what, you can get on a gravity trap, right? Like if you get smited
Right.
on a gravity trap, that's not doing crap. So like gravity traps are open and hex traps are open, which means the only thing you're worried about is really bolt traps. And like that sometimes that doesn't matter, but like a lot of times it will, but not always. And sometimes you can also position Dimitri in such a way where you don't have to attack. And what will happen is like the one opponent will be able to reach him and then it will activate his weapon. And then you can like go from there.
Right.
That's not as reliable, but like that is an option technically. I've definitely been just finding like if you're creative with him, you can get some like really crazy stuff done. And I think he's like no quarter is just busted. Like that skill is so
Yeah, so I guess
really gives him
let's
a
talk about no quarter.
Why don't we go ahead and also talk about the fodder that was introduced on this
Right,
guy?
right.
Because this banner is just like a freaking clinic of crazy fodder skills. So he comes with this new special called No Quarter. It's a 3-hit special. It's inheritable only by melee type units, and it can be given to all movement types besides armored, which I think that's funny. You can't give it to the Winter Edelgard, because like she actually would have enjoyed having this. But it's given to infantry, flyers, and also calves. And Jesus Christ, did melee flyers need another buff? Like, what the hell?
Yes.
So-
yes, they did.
What this weapon, what this special does, it boosts damage by X% of your attack when you trigger the special. If the enemy is an armor type, you get 40%. Otherwise, it's 30%. And when you trigger this special, you nullify enemies' non-special DR effects. So, pierceable DR happened first for melees rather than mages, like we all thought.
Mages? I know, right? Like, what was going on? Why isn't Flare like that? Come on,
I don't know.
man.
Look,
I'm so mad.
I feel like they flip-flopped it. Like, the effect that Flare does seems like it would make more sense for a melee unit to do. And, like, No Quarter seems like it would make more sense for Flare. But I don't know. Maybe they got that mixed up.
They were like, what's
Maybe.
Legendary Alicia's one weakness? Damage reduction. We got to give her no quarter. I'm like, yes, good job.
Yeah, so, okay, so
Oblivion
everyone...
works for IS confirmed.
Yeah, everyone's complaint. I mean, dude, Legendary Alicia was still cooking even without DR
No,
cut.
no, yeah. No.
And if you
She's busted now.
if you really, really wanted to, you could still have given her a Lear support anyway. So, like,
Yeah.
now that she can do it herself,
Right.
that just opens the floodgates.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, it's like not even Legendary Alicia. Like so many melee units like want
Yeah.
this skill. Specifically like
Yeah.
melee flyers, melee calves. Like
Uh-huh.
I was talking to Oblivion, like Brave Erica
Yeah.
got a lot better with No Quarter because one of her weakness with her refines was that she did not have a way to get through damage reduction. Now she does. And I mean that's a similar theme to like everyone else. Like pretty much any melee flyer or melee cav that wants to be a nuke will probably want this skill because
Yeah.
again, getting through damage reduction is so important these days. Like
Right.
there's a lot of damage reduction.
Yeah, so, like, this... I almost don't want to say it, but, like, this may have been a necessary evil in the direction the game is trending, where all of the freaking offensive units are just coming stacked to the brim with, like, so much offensive DR that if your tank does not pierce DR in some way, they probably just can't do anything anymore. So, like, you got to be able to pierce DR if you want to get rid of the threats. And having an inheritable melee special that does that it's good, of course, for tanks, but it... Like, in the interest of offensive units now being over the top, I think maybe we could have did without this. I feel like a leader support was the balanced way to handle that. Now, they could just run No Quarter. I don't know.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I guess Legendary Alira was like season locked, so you can't really
yeah,
use
yeah.
her like all the time in ether raids.
Right.
Also, I don't know if this was like necessary for tanks because like most of them are infantry, and I think infantries have like other options like tempo or physical / magical no follow up. But I guess you can now run this and have a different be like NCD, for example.
NCD,
So
Yeah, because a lot of the infantry guys, if they wanted to pierce DR, they'd just go for a Spiral 4 or like Tempo 4
That too,
or
yeah.
Null Follow-Up 4, like either of those things. But
mhm.
I mean, being able to just do it on the special is pretty good too.
Yeah, it's really good. It's dumb.
Yeah, it's really, honestly, it's really the Cavs and the Flyers, I think, that got the biggest buff
Yes.
from this. Because, like, they couldn't
Yes.
pierce DR before this. They didn't have Special Spiral 4 or Tempo 4 or No Follow-Up 4.
Right.
So, like,
Yeah.
them being able to now cut DR, it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Brave Crom has gotten better, which is like
Yeah.
this unit's so
Yes,
busted now.
let's go.
You can go like attack speed prime, and then you can like for your B slot you can go like defensive with guard 4, or you can go offensive with assassin strike. And then you can go like alarm attack speed and no quarter, right? And this unit's just like he ramps too. He has special acceleration.
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah.
It's just gross. It's so gross. I'm like, why is this? Oh man. So yeah, a lot of units got buffed. Like a ton of units got buffed by that special.
Yeah.
I do like this buff because like maybe not melee flyers, but like melee calves have like in general as an archetype has been like really struggling. So like them being able to have access to this skill like helps with that a little bit, which I personally think is really nice. It's similar to like guard bearing for like flyers, melee
Yeah.
flyers as well.
Yeah.
It's really strong. Back to Dimitri for a second, I guess. Like in SD, I think the current most powerful map on or current team on this map in particular, not most maps, but just this map, is like a Cav line with like Katie and Lind. And I've been doing that with Dimitri, and like he just checkmates. He's like Altina, he just checkmates. Like he'll go in, you kill the target with Hardy Bearing or Flash or whatever, and then he just sits there. So like, it's really toxic. So if you're playing SD, ban the Cav line. I know you might not seem like it's the best team, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, cav lines, I think, in general, are really good this map because if you can get through all the blocks or have Katie and Lynn, like, there's nothing stopping calves from just, like, going ham. So,
Right.
And obviously, Dimitri will fit very well with that. I am
Right.
curious to see how he'll do, like, outside of cav favorite maps. That is something I guess we'll have to see.
It just depends on the map. Like if it's
Yeah,
a tree
I gotta
map,
do
he's
that, for sure.
screwed. It's just like that.
That's
That's
true,
just how
yeah,
it is
yeah.
as a Cav.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reality of calves in SD. Like, you
Yeah.
have to pray to the RNG gods or
Yeah.
IS.
Yeah, pray for... Well, to be fair, though, if all the maps were not hindering to Cavs, then I feel like Cavs would just dominate like they did year one. So, like, they
Yeah,
kind of
that's
have
true,
to.
yeah.
But
Or
does
movement
the
Pathfinder.
Flyers need to be dominant on every map? Can't they just, like, make a new terrain that hinders Flyers or something? I don't know. Like,
I feel
Oh,
it's
be
funny.
like
no, you know what would be dope, actually? If they made a new terrain where if you have a unit standing on that terrain, it disables any warp effects they may have active. So, like, if you put a
God.
unit... If you put, like, Alincia
That's-
on that tile, then you can't warp in with her.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I was
like
thinking of
Gatekeeper
like
space on it.
Yeah, Gatekeeper space, or the new grass veins that Ratatosk has.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
something
that
like
makes
that.
more
I,
sense.
yeah, because I feel like Flyers are just way too dominant, and there's no signs whatsoever that that's ever going to slow down. So,
Yeah, I mean the only way to like have that sort of nerf on Flyers is a new terrain type, like what you're saying, or like maybe like a cloud terrain or like a turbulent Fuga's Wild Ride terrain that like acts similar to trenches. But yeah, I mean like Flyers being unrestricted by those sort of terrains is why they're so strong right now in SD.
Right. Yeah. There's nothing that actually hinders them besides walls, and everything is hindered by walls. So.
Right.
All right. I think that pretty much covers us for Dimitri. Now let's go ahead and move on to the final unit of the batch. So we have the Byleth and Byleth combo, double Byleths. So why don't we go ahead and wrap up the quiz here? So can either of you name off all the effects on their weapon?
Oh god. I'll try.
Okay.
I'll be the first to admit I have not looked at this too often. The weapon text. So
Okay.
I believe he has slaying.
Yeah.
Scowl. I remember that.
Yeah.
Stats obviously.
Uh-huh.
has the special. No, he does not have special jump. He has tempo, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh gosh, there was something else too.
More stats.
More stats.
Yeah,
Sure,
stats,
yeah.
stats, and more stats.
And NCD.
Yeah, the most important.
Right,
you guys keep
NCD,
forgetting
NCD,
like the
those
most
four.
important ones on all of these. Yeah. So he also
NCD if the opponent is ranged. Yes.
right. Yeah. So he also has that. Now I'll just go ahead and read the full thing. So he has -1 special trigger. He has distant counter built in. I don't think you mentioned that, did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, we
counter.
didn't.
I forgot. About
Yes. So he's got distant counter built in. At the start of combat, if his HP is over 25%, he gets attack, defense, and res up 5. No speed, even though that wouldn't have mattered. To himself, and then he grants a bonus to attack, defense, and res equal to 20% of his actual res at the start of combat. And he also nullifies guard effects that are inflicted on him during combat. Also, at the start of combat, if his HP is over 25% and the enemy's attack can trigger their special, and if his res is 5 points better, or his res plus 5 is better than the enemy's res, then he inflicts a special cooldown count plus X effect on the enemy before their first attack, which is essentially just Scowl, but it's Super Scowl, because it's the number of spaces from starting to ending position of whoever initiated with a max of 3. And if he triggers a save skill, then it's automatically 3. So all of your pre-charged specials are just, like, wrecked by this. It's Super Scowl. You can't just... He doesn't even need Veil, man. You just toss him in, and you can essentially just never use specials on this guy. Then also, if his HP is over 25% and the enemy has a ranged weapon, then he has Null Sea Disrupt. So... Jesus Christ, man. You think... It's like if... I want to say this weapon is basically like if Ascended Fiorm and Bride Tiki combined. It's like something like that.
I mean, that basically is it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's their weapons combined.
Yeah.
Plus Scowl. Can't forget about the Scowl. Oh, I guess Bridal Tiki has Scowl
Yeah,
too. Never
yeah,
mind.
she does. Yeah, it's just better Scowl. He's just like
Super
better than
Scowl.
both. Yeah, he's both of them combined if they were better. Like put that. Try to wrap your head around that. Okay, so I mean, baiting is not my thing. You guys already know. I just don't like to bait anymore because I don't see a point. It's like even what's surprising is that even this guy with all the effects that I just read off, he's got more. I mean, he's got a duo skill. He's got a special as well. Maybe we should just go ahead and read those two. So his special, Supreme Heaven, it's a 2-hit special. Boosts damage by X% of his attack when he triggers that special. If in combat against a dragon or beast, X is 50%, otherwise it's 25%. And if he triggers a special, then he nullifies enemies' DR effects from non-special skills. And also, if the enemy has a ranged weapon, if the enemy has a ranged weapon and their special is ready or triggered before or during this combat, then he gets 30% non-pierceable DR. So it's a pretty good special. The fact that they allowed this to pierce DR, it's basically Armored Beacon that pierces DR. Like, what the hell?
Right.
It's just doing like everything that it needs to do. So the fact that they gave him this was very important. And it also leaves his B skill open, so you don't have to run like Special Spiral 4 on him, which a lot of the other armors are doing. So being able to free up his B skill for something else, I mean, right now armors don't really have a really good B skill besides Hardy Fighter, and this guy can't actually use that because it would take out his Supreme Heaven for like Aegis or Pavis.
Right.
But he does also introduce a new B skill, which I guess we might as well talk about now. So, Weaving Fighter, at the start of combat, if his HP is over 25%, then he inflicts attack and defense -4 on the foe, and foe cannot make a follow-up attack and reduce damage from foe's first attack by X%, where if the foe can make a follow-up, X is 80%. That's in case they have like a Wary Fighter, or not Wary Fighter, a null follow-up effect to break
NFU,
Wary Fighter. Yeah. So 80% if they can follow up, and then 40% if they can't follow up. And also, it reduces damage from their follow-up attack by 40%, and during combat, that's usually the first attack, but on Brave weapons, it's both hits. So 40% Brave DR on the second attack. And then also recovers 7 HP after combat. So a cheeky little way to get some healing and DR on your armored types. I actually really like this B skill because a lot of the armored units were just stuck with pretty much running Special Spiral 4 if they wanted to like really compete, or Vengeful Fighter 4 or Special Fighter 4, which I don't really like those, to be honest. Like, I'm not a big fan of those because they have a lot of redundant effects with a lot of the arcane weapons. So if you're building a last-gen armor type, then it's like a waste almost to run Vengeful Fighter or Special Fighter, I feel like. So I think this is a nice in-between now, Weaving Fighter 4, where you can like actually get some effects that the other weapons, the arcane weapons, don't actually do.
Right. I mean, I've never been a fan of Wary Fighter or that effect, so I'm not the highest on this skill, but for slow armors, I guess it can be useful, especially the DR portion, being able to apply that much damage reduction.
Right. So, yeah, it's 80% on the first hit if they can follow. That's quite a lot.
If they double, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they're pretty much everything has no follow-up now, so they're most likely going to activate that.
Yeah. One thing that is important to know is that obviously as this is a skill, it is pierceable. So we have been seeing a lot of like, well, magical/physical no follow-up tempo sort of effects. And so that's honestly why like Hardy Fighter is still the best skill defensively, because 75% damage reduction with Aegis plus Hardy Fighter is like, that non-pierceable is pretty good actually.
Yeah.
But for like slower armors like Byleth, who does also have a form of non-pierceable DR and Supreme Heaven, like I do think he works pretty well with it.
Right, and another thing to note is that a lot of the units that pierce DR are doing it from activating their special, so like Deadeye, Lethality, or like Special Spiral 4, and this guy makes it really hard to use specials on him when he has that Super Scowl effect. So even though this is technically pierceable DR, not too many units are really going to be able to pierce it effectively, I think. So that's another point in favor of this skill, I guess. Also, you could just run like Veil on the team if you're going to inherit this on somebody else. Like, give them the Scowl support.
We've been talking a lot about Veils. Yeah.
So, Oblivion, anything you want to talk about here?
I mean, he's the best far save in the game, in my opinion. I don't think he's like invincible though. Like, he's not like, no save is invincible at this point. So don't go out and like buy a Byleth and then be like, hey, why did he die to stuff? Like, he's gonna die. But But
you have to be smart about it.
Right, I do think he's good against a lot of the meta nukes we've had up to this point, like Claude and Hinoka in particular. Like, he's really good against them.
Right.
And so that's something to note. He is weak to like Brave Crom in particular, not Brave Crom, Legendary Crom in particular, and Legendary Shez with like physical no follow-up. Those two like really do a beating on him. So that's something to consider as well. But I do think he's just really, really good. He can one-shot a lot of times. His duo skill is very nice. Like, it's not like the best duo skill. It's not duo Thor, but it's really nice. Being able to get like, you know, like, a lot of times when you're playing SD, you'll see the AoE coming at you. You're like, okay, the AoE's about to hit me. And then you just press the button, right? It works. And it delays for a whole turn. It also gives adaptive damage, which is something you should not underestimate. I found myself like missing some kills sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have adaptive damage. And I press it, and then all of a sudden I get the kill, right? So like, that's something to consider as well. I think he's just a really solid unit. I think he's good in pretty much every game mode, right? He's really good in SD. He's really good in Ether 8's defense. In Ether 8's offense, he can kind of miss kills sometimes. But if you stack him with the right supports, he does really well.
Right, so you brought up the duo skill, so I think maybe we should read that now.
Oh, yeah.
So what his duo skill does is it gives defense and res up 6, and it also gives damage reduction protection of 80% as a status effect to himself and allies within 2 spaces, as well as also granting the Hexblade status. And then at the it also grants him personally Surveillance Shield. That Surveillance Shield doesn't go to the allies, it's just him. So pretty solid duo skill. I mean, duo skills in Summoner Duels for me are just the turn with or action with. Like, you just use it so that you can like keep your position and then let the opponents move. So like, this is a really good instance of that, where you're doing this just to whip an action, but then you're also getting a lot out of it. So like for the turn, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it's not like Bridal Catrias, where it's solely for the action economy. Like, there is utility to it. Obviously, if you're facing like Summer Thor, then well, they could just respond with their dual skill and just erase all those bonuses.
Right.
But yeah, like at least it does have some very good utility there. I actually do agree with Oblivion that I'm not the highest on him when it comes to Ether Raid's offense, because personally, like I prefer like a lot of fast saves when it comes down to that, just due to being able to, at least in my opinion, secure kills more consistently. But in something like Summer's Duel's S, like again, like he counters Hinoka, he counters Wind Claude. He's probably the best far save. Again, there will be units that will be able to kill him, so don't go out there and just like put him in the middle of nowhere and expect him to tank everything. Like that's just not going to happen. But yeah, like he should be able to get the job done, which is all you can ask for in a save these days.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm not very high on saves in Ether Raid's offense at all. So I mean, if he's even making me think about using him, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that just about covers us for all of the units on the banner. Now, I have one question for you guys. Among all 4 of the new Christmas units, which one do you think is the best?
Oh man,
Ooh,
you're making me say
best.
this. I don't want to say this. I'm gonna get blasted.
Now you have to say it.
It's Edelgard, but I hate saying that. Like I'd rather say
What?
I'd rather
What
say
do you mean
Dimitri.
you hate?
I would rather say Dimitri, but I think it's Edelgard.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat, man. I think it is Edelgard. DTM, what do you think?
I am not as high as I was not as high on Edelgard as you two were, and I'm like the Edelgard fan here. I mean,
like, what more do you want her to do, man? She does. She does literally
Gale Force
everything.
5 times.
Yeah.
yes. AoE Gale Force, then we'll talk. No. But like it's really hard because like I do think all of them have roles that they're really, really good in. And so like the question is who's the best in the most modes or the most roles? And like I'm a bit skeptical about Winter Edelgard on Summer's Duels, but if that is able to be worked, then I would probably say Winter Edelgard. Like being able to do Gale Force and Summer's Duels at the same time is just like honestly kind of unprecedented, and so that would be really, really good for Winter Edelgard. But other than that, I might honestly like fall back to like Winter Byleth. I don't think Winter Byleth like shakes the meta as much as like some of the other units we've gotten this year, but like as a save, he's like again like very versatile in being able to be used like in a lot of different modes just by the nature of his class.
Interesting. Yeah. So you brought up that each of the units is specialized in some way, and I think that's a pretty good way to put it. So like Yunaka is specialized as an Aether Raid's defense cav line unit. We all know that. Byleth is specialized as a far saver. He can actually do okay in melee combat, but not like he's not blowing other melee units out of the water. So like a lot of his kit is built for tanking ranged threats. And then we have Dimitri, who's kind of like in how do I even describe his playstyle? He's kind of like doing his
hit
own
and
thing
sit.
here. Hit and sit.
He's very unique.
Yeah. He reminds me of Altina back in the day, like where you would just throw Altina in and have her Vantage tank the whole enemy team.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's kind of like that. He's a Vantage like sweeper, I guess, if that's a category. But the thing about Edelgard is that even though she is specialized as a Gale Forcer and she's the best Gale Forcer, she can still do a lot of other roles too, which I think is a concept with her that the other units don't really have. Like they can't step outside of their boundaries as easily as she can.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, she's like Gale Force hit and run, and then also possibly a save, which is like, that's really good.
Right. Yeah.
Really good.
I mean, yeah, it's similar to like Summer Edelgard, where some people ran her as a save too.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's a good enough place to wrap here. We talked about pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Anything else you guys want to add?
Just, if you're a free-play player, chill for a bit maybe. I know this banner's really enticing, but like, you do have a month, so like, there's a lot of banners coming up, so maybe chill. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I don't think any of these units are like must pull. units by any means. Like, you definitely don't need these units to succeed or do well in the various competitive modes. So don't like subscribe to FOMO or anything like that. Like, as much as we talk about the power of these units, like, no unit is a must-have besides Katria in her heyday. But yeah.
There's definitely been must-have units prior. I feel like on his release, so Legendary Sigurd was like, you either have him or your defense team sucks, pretty much.
Wait. I actually don't agree with that, but we could say that for another time. Really?
Yeah. All right. That's.
I mean, I didn't have.
That's a topic
very
for
conservative. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Follow my How to Save Orbs guide. Don't summon for anything. Let's go.
All right. Yeah. You heard it here first, guys. So definitely check out DTM's channel and subscribe to him if you're interested in how to save your orbs and be a free-to-play beast like he is. Also, subscribe to Oblivion's channel and check him out. He's got there's a lot of videos that he's been talking about making that he hasn't had the time to get to. So one of these days he'll drop that video that we're all waiting on, which is the how they can improve the game video, like what kind of modes they can add. I might even be a guest on there, depending on how things go. So I love how I just invited myself to your video. Nah, but real talk though, definitely subscribe to the homies. They are killing it, just killing it with the fake content, putting out awesome videos for everyone to watch. And this is your boy Tasho signing out. Hope you guys enjoyed our little breakdown of the Winter Banner. And I will catch you guys again on the flip side.
Bye.
See you guys.